Hey everybody, welcome back. I am your host, Joe JDF Foster, and today I'm going to discuss the idea of the drive-ins and if they could actually make a comeback. Many today wouldn't know what a drive-in is because pretty much by the late 90s, early 2000s, they started to fade from existence. But at one time, they were one of the most popular forms of movie viewing. And today I'm going to discuss the idea of if they were to make a comeback, a way that could help them and some of the issues they would face, as well as a slight little bit of knowledge that I found recently in a newspaper article about the drive-ins that was in the Saturday Evening Post. I don't know where exactly it was that this Saturday Evening Post took place, but this was a few years ago when it came out. But first, let's start with the tradition. Um, let's start with the tradition of how the drive-in theaters actually came to be. This is in 1933. A man who was actually worried about his mother's movie-going experience because she had issues with the seating at the traditional theaters. Well, he wanted to solve this problem for her so that she could enjoy it just like everybody else. Well, one day while he was working at his father's company and thinking of his mother's issue, he had an idea to have outdoor screenings from the car that people watch the movies from their cars. In May of 1933, he would go and get a patent. And because in the process of going to get the patent, before he went and got it officially, he thought of ways to deal with the parking issues as well as weather, such as if it was raining. But some things you can't fix everything, so he still had that issue later on. Well, in 1949, the patent was overturned, and suddenly there was an explosion of drive-ins across the country. And they just became more and more popular until the 80s when they started going down. But the movie Grease, which is based off of a musical, I think it is, or a Broadway play, something like that, has a scene in it where they're actually at a drive-in as being popular among teens. Well, it portrays it as being a popular makeout spot or passion pit, is what the article listed it as. This was actually found to be a rumor that was started by traditional theaters in the hopes of crushing the drive-in theaters' chances of getting people to go and getting the family viewership to stay, according to the writer of the article. Now, at the peak of the theater, at the peak of this things, at the peak of their popularity, they had 5,000 drive-ins across the country, at least ones that were known and official. By the article's date, which was June 27th of 2018, only 348 remained across the country. Again, I'm guessing that these were the ones that were known because I know of at least one that was still working as of last year, at least according to people I talked to. Occasionally, new ones still pop up here and there, and also the United Drive-In Theater Owners Association, which I didn't even know existed before I read this article, actually states that that this place works in order to keep people interested in the idea of the drive-in and trying to keep its popularity alive. And one of the things that the drive-ins were good for is instead of seeing the high-grade movies that you would always see in normal theaters, the B-rated horror films will be shown, such as The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Wolf Man, a lot of Bela Lugosi and Universal Pictures great horror movie magnets were considered B-rated films that would show up in these type of places, which could explain why the idea of it becoming a makeout point could also be a thing that was known to happen, but not 100% true. Which is why the rumor got worked so well for them. Because according to some scientific evidence that was actually done, where they did studies on this, apparently horror movies can actually be sort of a date movie deal. Because it's the feeling of being scared while at the same time having somebody with you. In traditional aspects, it was the woman feeling protected because she was there with a guy that she liked and trusted and felt safe with. Whereas the guy had somebody to protect. So they said that's why it actually worked. And that was just one of the reasons they say the study actually worked in that, to prove that. For why horror movies and dating worked in that way. Anyways, now that we're done with the hit... Oh, and also, before I move on to my little ideas, something people might not know, Bob Seger did a song called Night Moves. Sorry, it took me a minute, the song's playing in my head. But in the song, when they did the anniversary of it, I think it was the 30th anniversary, it features the mother from One Tree Hill, who played Brooke's mother in later seasons, and Matt LeBlanc, who played Joey on Friends, in it for the video for Night Moves, and it's actually taking place at a drive-in theater. Even shows you things about it, such as the place where they're, it's the concession stand where they're getting popcorn and food, and that they can see each other, and that there's in the parking spaces, and them actually watching the movie, or at least other people watching the movie, anyways. Okay, now for my part, where I was doing the issues and solutions as a way that if they did decide to make a comeback, ways that some of the issues they face and the solutions to these problems that I could see that could work for them. Used to, they would do, unlike real movie theaters, or what's considered to be real, but others call traditional, they charged per individual. Well, the drive-ins started out charging by carload, not by individual. But later on, in order to make money and be competitive, they started doing the same thing. Get rid of that idea. Go by carload. You know, how many people are in the car? 8 to 10? That's a certain price. 2 people? That's a price. How many ever's in the car? You pay the price, and that way you have a flat rate, and that way they know that it's equal pricing for everybody. And when you're doing the per individual, you got 2 people, that's already double the pricing, and that makes it look like you're more caring about the money than you are about making sure your business succeeds. Another thing they could do, and this is from my own experience of actually going to the drive-in as a kid and things I noticed, a lot of people are known to bring food to the drive-ins because you're allowed to. But for the stuff at the concession stands, they were known to higher price them for this reason also. Have the food price included in your ticket pricing. That way, again, they can pay a flat rate and they can eat the food they want, and it works out for everybody in that way. Plus, you might have a better chance at making money that way, because if you got it included in it, then they know what they're paying up front, and they know what they can get out of it. In Athens, Tennessee, they have a drive-in. I've been to a few. I went to a few times as a kid, at least twice I can remember. This actually leads into my third idea, where they have games and events for kids or adults to help spend time. To help speed up the time until it's time for the movies to actually start. Athens had it where you could pay money and actually do the whole destruction idea, where you could destroy a car with a sledgehammer or just beat up on it at one point. Another thing they could do is, if they have like a pond or a lake, let people walk around it, or have like a fishing thing if it's known to have fish in it. And just let them look at that until the movie starts. And give like a little warning signal for it. So that way if they miss the movie, it's their fault for missing the warning. Or they can make it, or they'll know that, hey, that signal means it's time to go, so we go back and we make it in time for the movies. Also, another thing they can do is offer a free night once a month where ticket price is free and the food bought can be half price instead of regular, which, again, more people would buy more food. If they didn't bring in the food, people would be more likely to buy twice the food because they're only paying half price, but you could actually end up making more money that way, despite how it looks on the outside. Also, makes it look like you care more for the customers than you do for the money that you're making, which means better chance at getting repeat customers. This one was one I thought of basically right before making this video, and that's the different genre night occasionally. Like, during the summer, you could have one night where it's anime and kids night, where they do lots of anime and kids movies the entire night. On Halloween, you do scary movies and ones associated with the holiday. Christmas, same idea. Valentine's Day, sorry, if you're not going to do love on Valentine's Day, you're kind of defeating the purpose. And you can do romantic comedies all that day. And also, and then the other idea I had, rather than being open once a week and just try to make all your sales in that one night, have it open every night. That way, because people have different work schedules, and students go to school during the week, and some of them play sports, so they can't make it on the night that you're open, because that's a lot of times the drive-in would want to do a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday deal, and on Friday nights, a lot of schools did football or some other sport. On Saturday, the kids wanted to hang out with their friends because that's all they had. And Sunday, for most people that I knew, was church day. You went to church, you came home, did all the chores that you were supposed to have done for the week on that day, and then you went to church that night, and then came home, got ready for bed, and went to school the next morning. You have it open during the week, though. You can make money off of people because they could come to see if there's new films, or if they really enjoyed a film, they could come and see it again and have people with them that hadn't seen it before, or that were possibly working or had something to do the day that you were actually open during that time. So having it open during the week, they could come another night and you could still make money off of it. Also, do like a lot of theaters and traditional theaters and other places have started doing, where they have a rewards or a loyalty program, which could draw the people into coming to that particular spot more often in hopes of earning free food, a nice parking spot, or half off on some type of pricing in some other way. And instead of having your delivery date once a month or once every week or 2 weeks, have it be 2 to 3 times in 1 week. So that way you can be up to date on the films and actually be able to show more and get the possibility that you have more people to see more films that way. And still have better chances to compete with the regular theaters and get them to come in. Second issue, the movies. A lot of drive-ins, after a certain time, started becoming known for showing the old films, the classics from the 50s and 60s, rather than trying to keep up with more recent ones. Because the movie companies didn't want to risk it that, hey, we're going to lose money if we try to send it here instead of letting it go to the major theater where people that we know will go. See, that's a problem. They were losing out on the market, which could explain why Hollywood does have some issues in money making nowadays, as well as other Hollywood type Hollywood type figures. But anyways, movies from the 80s to 90s. I can remember going to the drive-in. I saw a movie that was and I went in the late 90s, and this movie was from, I give it late 60s, early 70s at best. And that was just one movie I saw. Yeah, they occasionally had a film that was more recent that we could want to see, but it really wasn't any good for that purpose. Because a good reason for the drive-in is so that you can actually be up to date on the movies and have somebody to talk to or discuss the film with. Whereas in the traditional theater, you're paying this highly priced thing for almost nothing, and you're sitting in one spot, can't do anything. So it kind of takes away from the viewing point. Yeah, you're supposed to watch the movie. Ooh, yeah, that's really going to help with a date. Whereas the drive-in, you can take a day or you can take your family, and somebody's having a problem with the movie, you can explain it to them if you're going, and you can still watch it, and they could lay down, go to sleep, not care. Instead of having to walk out and having wasted all that money in the actual theater, the drive-in, the person could just lay down and go to sleep if they didn't want to watch it. Or go find something else to do and spend it during that time so that they wouldn't have to actually stay and watch this film they didn't want to see, while waiting for the one they want to see or waiting for it to be time to leave. Now, Athens, I know, started doing this a while back, but I'm not sure if they still do or not, but they're known to show more recent films that come out within 6 months of the release, which is still a problem. And some of them have actually, and I think it's actually gotten to where it actually shows like the week of release, the drive-in actually gets it as well, which I find interesting that they've started doing that. And why? Because the bigger theaters are having issues at getting people to come because of the pricing. When people can find it online or go somewhere else and see it for a cheaper price and be happier with not having to pay so much. Now, for number 3 on this list of issues and solutions, spacing. A lot of theaters, you can see how their parking lots are. So imagine a place where you're going to park for the night and watch the movie. You're going until like 4 to 6 a.m. is the idea of these things. One Athens used to do what they call a dusk till dawn, which was from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., which is why they did it on Friday and Saturday night. Meanwhile, they did it on Saturday night, but they had it open all weekend for normal amounts of movies. But anyways, the required space for cars and the movie area, well, older cars were really big, which means you had to have a lot more space. But the cars being made nowadays fit more to Asian and European style cars, where they're actually smaller. And yet they hold more people and they still offer a lot of comfort. So that means you would actually not have to need as much space now as you did back then. Which means you could get more cars in and make more money that way. But you still need the space, and you still got to worry that in case of rain or something, people, and also These cars that people behind other cars can actually still see the movie. While the screen can be big. Now, like during small rainstorms, just light rain, where it's like nice subtle thing, but nothing where it's actually interrupting the movie. Having a thing where it's like the theater, like traditional theaters, and having like a slight elevation to it could actually be helpful in this case, because the water would flow downward, and if it flows down, at some point it's going to level off. You have that little space leveling off right near the front. Not necessarily where you're going to have people parking still, but have it like one more level, and where it goes one more level, and then it has like a flat line, maybe heading like a drainage way towards the lake or pond or some other place that's away from the theater area. That way the water moves that way, and you don't have to worry about the people wanting to leave because they can still have the movie. Also, another good thing about the movies about the drive-ins that wasn't like the traditional theater. Traditional theaters are known for having the big speakers to speak over everybody. One thing that makes it interesting is that the drive-ins had the little small speakers that you could actually put on your car. Push the button, and you could hear the movie just fine. No issues unless there was a technical issue with the actual machine. Or, if it was a nice night, you could actually roll down the window, sit out on the car, and actually just listen to the movie in its natural aspect. Sorry. I said some of this I had memorized, other parts I didn't. Also, farmlands, abandoned areas that aren't being used, like where you have warehouses that have been shut down. Turn them into drive-in spaces. Tear down the businesses that were there that aren't being used and is actually being wasted as land. Turn it into a theater space. And not traditional theater. Use it as a drive-in, because with that amount of space, a lot of places that are going under have gravel spacing. Have gravel roads in this way in the warehouse areas that are being shut down. So it would be just like the regular drive-ins, where instead of grassy fields, you could have gravel instead, and people could actually park there, be happy, and you still have about the same amount of space, actually. Also, for those farmers and people who are having trouble meeting and making ends meet, have the space rented out, where every so often they can air movies on this side of the land and not have to worry. TV shows often did this with the idea that people would go to the park and they would have like a movie night in the park like that. There's places in real life that do this. Well, you could do the same thing with people's home areas that were having trouble making ends meet, and they could actually use the money earned as a way to help pay loans or to pay off debts, or if the government's renting it out from them, the government's got to give them money for it, which they in turn can turn around and spend to make ends meet, and it work out for both sides. States that have more open space could also do this, such as places like Idaho, Montana, good amount of areas in the Midwest. Tennessee should really consider keep doing this. Kentucky, Bloomington, Indiana, when that article I was talking about earlier, they had 2 theaters opening in Indiana. One in Terre Haute and one drive-in in Bloomington that had recently opened. Or it was getting ready to open soon. Something like that with those 2. But they were both in Indiana. Place that's got plenty of open space because of the farmland and stuff that's not being used. And instead of turning it into some big business where you're going to cause more trouble than anything, you keep it simple, you get people hired, and it works out nicely. Also, another thing you can do with the drive-in, do like the Sonic restaurants do. Have car hops. You could press a button to order. You could have a button that you push on a machine or something at your parking spot and you order something and they find out and they bring it out to you when it's ready. This could in turn get jobs as well as help out with them actually being able to appreciate the movie and not having to worry about missing it and being like, what did we miss? Or missing a key point in the movie that gets them lost when the major plot twist happens and we get to the end of it. And having to figure out, how did they get to that point? What did I miss that was so important? Also, this could be a good way to attract visitors or out-of-towners who think they're getting a taste of the classic life when they grew up in traditional country where your nearest neighbor was miles away. So this way they can actually meet up with their friends, talk to them, and they think they're getting something good out of it, while at the same time they're getting to live the life of getting to see the theaters and movies and things that may not be available where they actually lived. Also, for those ones who grew up in the big cities where everybody's so crowded and traditional theaters will run, but you will not find a drive-in, they could go here and realize they're getting a taste of a simpler life where it was actually easier and you don't have to worry about walking up so many stairs feeling like you're out of breath and all you're doing is holding a drink that you paid like $15 for a drink and a candy bar. But instead, and that was just those two things. That's not including the ticket price you already paid. But you could get this stuff and actually have people come out and bring it to you, and you're all happy. And you never had to leave your car, and you could actually focus on the movie, which again proves you care more for the customer than the traditional theater, which means better competition. Also, when it's not being used for the theater purposes, that is a lot of space that's used for these things. You could use them for car shows, fairs and carnivals, circus, if they still exist, that come to town. People who want outdoor weddings and other events that are outside could actually use this space for so much money they could rent it out and make money off of it. Especially those type of theater areas that have perhaps a lake or a pond nearby, where a couple who wants to get married wants something scenic. They could get married by the pond and have everybody parked there. The concession stand can be used to house the food for the time until it's actually time to serve it. And there you go. They have that. And then a lot of people seem to be into the idea of showing the couple through photos and having like these wild parties and things. I mean, having these bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, things like that. Rent out the space. You can have fun. And since you're renting it out, you could have it work out for you as the space is rented. So therefore, all you're doing is paying to use it and take care of whatever mess you create. Also, this could keep kids from having those raves and things in these areas since they're closed down, and the cops coming in and having a reason to arrest them. If you have a party or something there, kids aren't going to want to go there as often, which means less likely the cops show up and less likely you are to have a place shut down because of some criminal issue that happened there. Now, option number 5. Now, for number 5 on my list, and this is out of 6 things, but number 5 on my list of issues and solutions, and this was actually the final issue or solution I came up with as a problem, as a thing, as a topic for today's thing, was the issue of weather and technical issues. Weather, such as rain, tornado. If it's a rainstorm, if it's light, have them sit in their cars. You got the little box thing they can push. They can put that on their car, or maybe move it into the car and have the window most of the way up. Push the button, and there you go. They can listen to the movie that way, and they're not actually missing anything. I have the little windshield wipers on. Yeah, the windshield wipers may get in the way, but they're still getting to see the movie, and everything's still okay. Now, for heavy ones, yes, you'll have to end the showing, but to prove that you care for not for the money itself, but again, for the people, give a refund or some type of thing that, like, they can come back another night and you try and do the viewing again without the possibility of the rain getting in the way. Which, again, this could be where the open every night part comes in rather than the once a week or once a month deal. Also, if you know it's really heavily favored to rain or it's been raining all day, cancel the event. Because if you were to get married, they would give you a non-refund on this. Which, to me, shows that the wedding industry is kind of screwed up in this idea. Because, oh, it's non-refundable because you ordered it for this particular day and you can't make money. But with this one, if you have to cancel the event, reschedule it and make it where people will actually want to come back and try again some other time. Even give them a refund. I said, is with the previous thing, give a refund to show that you don't care as much about the money as you do about the customer relations. You're more likely to get the customer to come back because it shows you actually care for them rather than yourself. Because think about it. Your boss tells you, hey, I want you to work Saturday. Are you really wanting to work Saturday? Or, let's say you had planned Saturday. Well, your Saturday's now ruined because your boss made you work.